Hello beautiful scrappy friends, it's Belinda and I'm back today to share another process video with you. Now this is one that I filmed quite a while ago when I was on the Cut to You design team. I have discovered that I have a little bit of content which is sitting on my hard drive that I wasn't able to edit and upload to YouTube at the time that I filmed it. So rather than let all of that footage go to waste, I am going to come back in and I'm going to share a little bit of it now. So in the original recording, I was talking over this live, which is why you can see me gesturing a little bit. So don't mind me if what I'm saying doesn't exactly match up with what you're seeing on screen. But what I have here is a beautiful cut file from Cut to You, a couple of photos of my kids, and the Serendipity collection from Uniquely Creative. Now, I will give you a warning. This is a very pink heavy collection and also a very pink heavy layout. So if that's not your thing, maybe you might want to stop watching now. I don't know. When I've backed the cut file, I've tried to not go completely pink. I've added some darker pops of color and I've used a lighter color for the foliage on this cut file. Like I said, it is a very pink heavy collection, but I wanted to have just a little bit of variation here so that it doesn't get just too much for the eyes. So that's my little intro done. Now I'm going to get stuck into creating. To begin with, I'm creating my background. If you are new here, one thing you will quickly learn about me is that I love to work on a nice clean white background, but I will almost always mat that onto some patterned paper. Now this pink wood grain patterned paper from Uniquely Creative, this just has all my heart. I could have 50 pieces of this paper and I would still probably not be happy. So that's the perfect mat. I've just gutted the inside so that I can save that, and it's a really thin mat on this page that I'm creating here because I did have quite a large cut file. And so I wanted to make sure that things weren't too cluttered on the page. I'm using my wet adhesive to just lightly adhere that down, and then I've taken it off to my sewing machine and I have added some, just a row of stitching around the border. Now the cardstock that I'm using is the Uniquely Creative watercolor cardstock because I knew that I wanted to add some mixed media to the background behind that cut file. So I'm using my Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals, a couple of different tones of pink, one's more of a peachy color, one's more of a pink. And the technique that I'm going to use here, it's kind of a combination. I'm using, as you can see, a little bit of the packaging technique, but then I'm using my brush to apply some color. I'm kind of mixing it up. Sometimes I'm putting the color onto the packaging and then smushing it onto the background. And then I will also come in and add the color directly to the background and then smush it around with the packaging. I am a little bit of a perfectionist with my creative pursuits and just in life in general, I guess. So while I like the organic look of the packaging technique, that on its own sometimes ends up being a little bit too much for me. I don't really like the lack of control, the total lack of control from the packaging technique. So I kind of just play around and make things my own. The other thing is I'm not really keen on super dark backgrounds, so you will see me bringing in some paper towel here just to lift up a little bit of that color after I've applied it. And as I'm adding more color to the background, I am bringing my cut file in again just to see if there's any spots or see where I need to add a little bit more color because I don't want to have it completely covered up by the cut file. I also don't want to have it taking up way more of that beautiful clean white background than it needs to. So I'll just keep going with that process, keep playing around until I get something that I'm happy with. And then because I've used the paper towel to pick up some of the color, it's also picked up a lot of the liquid. So this really doesn't take a lot of time to dry. And now I can come in and add another layer of mixed media on the background, which is also something that I love to do. So I've grabbed this what is it, a script stencil and my Prima light modeling paste, and then I'm just going to come and add this into a few different places. It's quite subtle, but it does add another layer of dimension, and it just helps to sort of build a little bit more visual interest on that background there. So the cut file is designed to be a frame, and I wanted to have my photos sitting inside that frame. So I'm just measuring up the inside of that. And then I'm using, this is the same pink wood grain paper that I used on the background for my page. But this is actually from the 6x6 paper pack, so it is on a much smaller scale. And I really love to do that. I love to bring in some cohesion between what you're seeing on the background or the border to the page and the elements that you're seeing in the actual design of the page itself. I think that's a really nice way to bring everything together. So I've measured that out, I've trimmed it down, and then I've just adhered my photos onto that. And now I know that I want to add just a little bit of dimension to bring those photos up from the cut file, but I don't want to add too much because I also know that I'm going to add some foam to the back of it, and I'm trying really hard not to add too much dimension to my pages because I am running out of space in albums to store them. So I've just used some thick cardboard or some thick chipboard that probably came in some packaging or something like that I tend to keep nearby just for this exact purpose. And now I've grabbed my giant roll of foam tape, which I purchased from Bunnings here in Australia, and I'm going to apply that to the back of the cut file, but I'm not going to make you watch me pulling all of the backing off the adhesive by the magic of video editing. That is now done, and that's adhered down to the background. One thing I will say is that because I had some mixed media in the background there, I'm not just relying on the foam tape to adhere it. I have also added some wet glue as well. I just find that helps things adhere to mixed media backgrounds a little bit easier. I used this die cut title from the ephemera pack called Happiness, and that's the title for my page, and just really simple journaling. Happiness is right here with the two of you. There wasn't a big event that went along with this. It was just a local burger place, if you can believe it, local to us, has this really cool floral wall which you're welcome to go and take photos on in front of. It's very Instagrammable, which is what I think they're going for. So of course I had to take the opportunity to snap this little photo of my two kitties behind or in front of that wall there. This is going back quite a few years now, so they are much bigger. And I'm starting off to build a couple of clusters to the left and to the right of my photo using these doily pieces, and these are actually fussy cut out from some pattern papers of the collection. Up to the top left of the screen, you can also see in my dish there, I have a whole lot of foliage, and that was using a die which also came with the collection, and I've just cut that out of white cardstock, and I'm going to use that to add some extra interest and some extra detail to these clusters. Now I love the amount of florals that come in the Uniquely Creative collections. Not such a fan of all the fussy cutting. You just saw me pull out my bag there, but when I was a subscriber, when I would get the collections, I would sit down and in front of the TV over a couple of nights, I would just go and fussy cut all of the florals or whatever fussy cutting elements were there so that they were all ready to use when I was ready to sit down and create. So what that means is for this layout and for any layouts that I create using those Uniquely Creative collections, I have got more florals than I can possibly ever need to use, which makes my little creative heart very, very happy. So I think the rest of this video now is just going to be watching me build these little embellishment clusters. I am using some foam dots to add some dimension, particularly where I've got foliage and leaves and flowers. I like to add the foam to the outside edges of those just to lift them up off the page. It does help to give some, I guess, some movement, helps to give the effect of movement with those florals. So that is a technique that I like to use, and of course using my wet glue to adhere them down nice and tight where they meet the rest of the clusters. Now, embellishing does take me a little while. As you can see, I am not the fastest person when it comes to creating clusters. I tend to overthink a lot, as I suppose some of you do, but for me, I just really enjoy the creative process, and I love to play around with things until I'm happy, and I do tend to just keep going. I'll just keep adding more and more and more until I'm happy, and sometimes I'll think I'm going to add more and then decide not to. So what I'm trying to do now is just bring in these last little bits and pieces. I've got some little tags here which I have threaded some twine through already. You can see I've used the little tab up the top, the family tab, and then I'm digging through that big bag of florals again just to find a few more pieces to round out the cluster down the bottom there. I just didn't like that little bit of empty space where the corner of the photo was. It felt a little bit unbalanced with the top right hand corner being covered by those florals. So I'm just going to keep building out and building out and building out until I am happy with the way that it looks. There's another little tag there. You can see that I kept trying to bring that happy little tag which had some twine on it in, but I'm using the My Heart one there, and I've just added some foam to the outside because those outside layers are much there's a lot more dimension on those than there is on the inside, so I don't want that little My Heart tag to fall flat on the page, so I just make sure that I've got some foam to keep it all at the same height. Now I'm coming in with these gorgeous little die cut foliage. I love how delicate and subtle these are, and they really are just the perfect way to finish off these little clusters. I'm not afraid to cut them down, so I'll just cut off whatever I need and apply some wet adhesive. You definitely need some wet glue, and I'm going to hold it down just for a minute with my tweezers or my scissors or my finger or whatever is going to work, just until I know that that glue has adhered, and then I can move on to the next one. So yeah, I really do love that foliage dye. It's really fantastic. I've grabbed some of the little gems. Now I don't use these kinds of embellishments a lot. They do come in most of the Uniquely Creative kits, so I do have quite a large stash of them, but I thought I would bring them out, and rather than using my typical Nuvo drops to finish it off, I would use some of these up. So these are really nice, domed. They've got kind of like an iridescent finish to them, so I'm just going to add them in a few different places around the layout just as a bit of a finishing touch. And then I think we are coming to the end very shortly once I've added these on. Play around with the foliage. Now I would have loved to have popped the outside of those up a little bit more, but they were just too fine to get any foam behind them. So you can see I wasn't really happy with the way that one was sitting, so I've just pulled it off, and I'm going to come in and stick another one down, and I'm just going to tuck it in a little bit further than it was before, and I think that will be it. I will call it done. I hope you have enjoyed this process video today. If you have, I'd love for you to go ahead and leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, I would really love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me on my paper crafting adventures. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.